Alright, so Mike here, he's a former Scientologist. He's seen their abusive practices firsthand. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I was in the cult of Scientology as a child. I worked for one of the orgs in the Midwest. Not going to mention which one, but I was on staff there for a couple of years, and I decided some of the recruiters from LA came out and decided they wanted to recruit me for AOLA, which is the Advanced Organization Los Angeles. And that was back in '88. I decided to then sign a billion-year contract, go out and work for the cult of Scientology.
About the billion-year contract, is it kind of shoehorned in, or is it pretty?
No, it's out there in the open.
Oh, yeah.
It's just blatant billion-year contract, and nothing hidden about it. It just says you're gonna dedicate the next billion years worth of lifetimes to the Sea organization. But no, I went on to AOLA. I was 15 at the time, and I turned 16 in the Sea Org, and I was working for the AOLA. Working typical 50-60, and whenever it was 50 to 60 hours a week, and whenever they had an emergency, which is pretty much every week, whether we were eating beans and rice or not, and we would work upwards of 80 hours, or plus sometimes. And here I was a kid. I was 15 years old working in the Sea Org, and I remember one night we were up until 4 o'clock in the morning putting together the Auditor magazine because it was behind budget and behind their timeline, and nobody was doing it. So we had to all go in there in the middle of the night and fold these things and staple them together all night. And
so literally like a room full of children, basically.
No, it wasn't all kids. There were about 3 of us that were kids, okay. And then there were about 4 or 5 adults that were there. But there was between 7 and 8 people, and we were basically slave labor. That's what we were. Yeah, I didn't have a high school diploma. I didn't have any education. I had no job experience. I didn't even know how to keep myself clean. I had no social skills at all whatsoever.
So there's no LRH tech on cleaning oneself?
No, the tech basically says, in so many words, if you're following the tech, you should be okay. Everything should be fine. There's no issues as long as you're following the tech. Here I was following the tech and had all kinds of problems. I was depressed. I had all kinds of issues. I was a kid. I walked around for 6 months with an ingrown toenail. I talked to the nurse, and the nurse told me I was out ethics. I pulled it in. I limped around for 6 months with an ingrown toenail because of this. And I know it's a minor injury, it's a minor situation, but it still hurt. And nobody wanted to help me. No one was interested. It was my fault that I had an ingrown toenail. But enough about the ingrown toenail. I turned 16 in the Sea Org. I remember sitting on top of Big Blue when they still had the big Scientology sign up there. And thank you. And I remember thinking to myself, what am I doing here? I don't even know why I'm here. I don't even buy half the stuff. I don't even buy half the stuff that I'm following. And I remember reading the signs on the door of OT2 sessions saying that I'll get sick of pneumonia and die, or something terrible will happen to me. This is a note on the door inside AO. No, ASHO. And I remember seeing this and thinking to myself, wow. Really get sick hearing something? That made no sense to me.
I mean, did you get and did you have any inkling about Xenu, any of these things?
No, someone had mentioned it to me on the fly one time. We were talking because security had wrestled a guy outside down to the ground that was carrying a Xenu sign. I remember this very well because it got really quiet and weird inside the org. And
this was a protester? Or?
It was just a lone protester, just this guy all by himself. He had a Xenu is something. I don't remember what it said, but I remember asking one of the other Scientologists that was near me, what is Xenu? And he said, I don't know. Some people seem to think that 75 million. He told me the story that, and then he said, well, I don't think it's true, but we're not really supposed to talk about it anyway. So we ended it there, and it was just a really weird experience.
Right.
But finally, OSA came down. It was either OSA or it was the legal for LA. They came down to talk to me, and. And they basically said, you're a minor, you can't be here working like this, we're having legal issues. And this was in '89 at the time, and I believe they were having some other issues at the time. So they basically told me that I had to, I had to go, and that I had to pay for a flight home to go back and be with my family. Well, I did that, and went back home, and I wasn't allowed to be on staff at the org there anymore because I'd been in the Sea Org. But they told me, well, you can still volunteer, you can hang out and do stuff, and I still work 50 hours a week there, even though I wasn't on staff. You know, I had no training. I did the communication course. I did Staff Status 1 and started on Staff Status 2. That's as far as I got in Scientology.
Right.
That's it. That's all I got. Years of being a Scientologist as a kid. That's all I got. So no training at all. And well, I went back there. I decided to leave staff after, you know, having some trouble. You know, I was a kid. You know, I'm in this cult, and you know, I don't have any friends. I don't have a social life. I don't have anything. I'm just this, you know, kid. And I was lost. And I decided to go off and do some other stuff. You know, find some friends, do some stuff, hang out, go see movies, bowl. And that wasn't liked very much. And eventually, after one thing after another, I left the church and was disconnected from my mother. I don't know if I was declared a suppressive person. I never got a notice. I just disappeared one day. And you know, when I tried to talk to my mother, she wouldn't talk to me, or she would pretty much blow me off. I was homeless for a little over a year after I left the Church of Scientology. And I remember I was living in the family's camper behind the house. And my mother would regularly come and chase me out of there, and tell me I couldn't stay in there. And so I wound up in abandoned cars doing, it was really, really bad. It was a really bad time in my life. And oddly enough, it was another church that pulled me out of it, that saved me. It was the Catholic Church. You know, they came along and they put me into a boys' home and a group home, and I was able to go to school and get my diploma, my degree, and all that stuff, and went on to live a normal life. You know, but it was a really long, hard road out of Scientology. It really was.
A lot of Scientologists, they talk about how the tech works for them, all these things. I mean, from your experience, would you say is there anything in there that's useful? No?
It's useless, all of it. I remember thinking for a while that maybe a touch assist or a locational may have had some use or some, but then...
It's a placebo.
It is a placebo, yeah. And as you think about it, okay, I'm tapping my head on the cabinet door because I bumped it there, and all it's doing is making it hurt worse.
Yeah.
So it made no sense after a while. It was a placebo effect with the assists. If you believe something will work, well, maybe it does a little bit, like taking a sugar pill. It does kind of work.
If it doesn't, then you die in Scientology, and
yeah.
Nobody's gonna know. So
no, pretty much. That's my story.
And you said your parents are now out?
They're inactive. I don't know if you want to call them out. Their big beef with the cult right now is that their tech dictionary has pretty much been. I didn't really understand it when he was explaining it to me because I really don't know what's going on inside there anymore. But he said something about the tech dictionary was all screwed up and they weren't using the right references, and the references were going back to policy letters that don't exist anymore, or had been just disappeared. And they felt like the tech was being squirreled, and they just got sick of the harassing phone calls, being called every hour on the hour, begged for donations, begged for you name it.
Well, one step at a time. Do you have any contact with them these days?
Oh yeah, no, I talk to my family. I love my mother very much. It's been a strange trip. That's for sure.
And then Scientology knows who you are, right? And,
oh yeah. And they know who I am.
They've fair game you mentioned. Right?
Yeah. The one reason why I'm out here, and the one reason why I'm so vocal about Scientology isn't the fact that, hundreds of thousands of dollars and you get some vitamins and a sauna and that's all you get. But they followed my wife and my child into Safeway, and were snapping photos of her and muttering weird things to her. And when she came home, she was in tears. She was crying. And this is thank you. This is a few days after we had visited Tommy in San Francisco. I just went down there just to see what it was all about, because I didn't even know that they were having protests and stuff like that. So I went down there to talk to him, and someone snapped my photo, and a couple days later we started getting followed around. And there was another incident where they followed my wife everywhere for hours. And she tried to lose them too, but they stayed behind her. Now we got several license plates and descriptions and stuff like that, but there's only so much you can do with that information.